In a small town where the land was flat and green, there was a river that moved slowly like an old thinker. The people called it Silver Willow River, because long willow trees grew on both sides, their thin branches touching the water as if they were reading its thoughts. The river was not loud or wild. It did not rush or shout. It simply stayed day after day, carrying quiet stories in its gentle flow. In this town lived a young man named Daniel. He was 23 years old, and he worked in a small bookstore near the river. The bookstore was old, with wooden floors that made soft sounds when people walked, and shelves full of books that smelled of paper and time. Daniel loved this place. He loved the silence, the words, and the feeling that every book was a door to another life. Daniel had grown up in this town, but lately he felt like a stranger in his own days. Every morning he woke up, ate the same breakfast, walked the same road, opened the same shop, and smiled at the same people. Nothing was wrong, but nothing felt alive. He often stood by the window of the bookstore and looked at the river, wondering why he felt so empty when his life seemed full. One early spring morning, when the air was still cold but hopeful, an old woman came into the bookstore. She walked slowly, using a wooden stick, and wore a long blue coat. Her hair was white and tied neatly behind her head. She looked around the shop as if she was visiting an old friend. "Good morning," Daniel said kindly. "Good morning," she replied. Her voice was soft but clear. "I am looking for a book about rivers." Daniel smiled. "We have many books like that. Stories, poems, history, even science." She shook her head gently. "No, I am looking for a book that listens." Daniel was surprised. "A book that listens?" "Yes," she said, her eyes bright. "Some books listen better than they speak." Daniel did not know what to say, but something in her voice made him curious. He walked to a small shelf in the corner where old and forgotten books were kept. He did not know why he went there. His hand reached for a thin book with a green cover. There was no title on the front. He gave it to her. "This one," he said quietly. She smiled, as if she had been waiting for this moment. "Thank you," she said. "This is the right one." She paid and turned to leave, then stopped. "Young man," she said, "do you ever listen to the river?" Daniel laughed softly. "I look at it every day." She nodded. "Looking is easy. Listening is rare." Then she left. That night Daniel could not sleep. The woman's words stayed in his mind. He opened his window and heard the distant sound of water moving. It was soft, almost like breathing. For the first time, he wondered what the river might be saying. The next evening, after closing the shop, Daniel walked down to the river. The sun was low, painting the sky orange and pink. He sat on the grass and listened. At first, he heard only water and wind. But after some time, he noticed something else. The sounds felt meaningful. Not words, but feelings. Sadness, joy, waiting. He began to visit the river every day. Days passed and spring slowly became warmer. Flowers appeared, birds returned, and the town seemed to wake from a long sleep. Daniel felt something waking inside him too. He started writing in a notebook, simple thoughts and memories. He wrote about his childhood, about his parents who had died when he was young, about his dreams that he had forgotten. One afternoon, while sitting by the river, he met a young woman named Clara. She was drawing the river in a sketchbook, her dark hair tied loosely, her fingers stained with pencil. "Hello," she said, smiling. "Hello," Daniel replied. They sat in silence for a while, watching the water. "It changes every day," Clara said. "But it's still the same river." Daniel nodded. I feel like that sometimes. She looked at him with interest. Me too. They began to meet often by the river. They talked about books, art, fear and hope. Clara had moved to the town after leaving a busy city life. She wanted quiet, but sometimes she missed the noise. Daniel listened carefully. He was good at listening now. One evening Clara told him, "I'm afraid to stay here too long." "Why?" Daniel asked. "Because if I stay, it means I've chosen this life. And choosing means losing other possibilities." Daniel understood. He had been afraid too. Afraid to leave, afraid to stay. Summer came and with it a sudden storm. The river grew strong and fast, its calm face changing. Rain fell for days. One night, the river overflowed and flooded parts of the town. People woke up to water in their homes, fear in their hearts. Daniel rushed to help. He carried boxes, comforted neighbors, and worked until his hands hurt. Clara was there too, helping an old couple save their photographs. During the storm, Daniel felt something powerful. The river was not just gentle and quiet. It was alive. It remembered. It gave and took. After the flood, the town slowly recovered. People cleaned, repaired, and supported each other. Something changed between them. They spoke more, smiled more, and helped more. The river had reminded them that they were connected. One morning, Daniel found a letter inside the bookstore door. It was from the old woman. "Dear listener," it said, "the river has noticed you. Remember, life moves like water. It does not stop for fear. It flows." Daniel never saw the old woman again. Clara decided to stay in the town. Not forever, she said, but for now. She opened a small art studio near the river. Daniel helped her paint the walls. They laughed, made mistakes, and shared quiet moments. Daniel also made a decision. He started writing his own book. Not about the river, but with it. Every morning he walked by the water, listened, and wrote. His words were simple but honest. Years passed. The bookstore changed owners, but Daniel stayed as a writer. His book was published quietly without noise. People who read it said it felt like sitting by a river. Daniel and Clara grew older together. Sometimes they argued, sometimes they were silent, but they always returned to the river. It watched them just as it always had. One evening, as the sun set and the willow trees whispered, Daniel said, "Do you think the river remembers us?" Clara smiled. "I think it remembers how we listened." The river flowed on, carrying their reflection, their laughter, their silence, and their story, moving gently into tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe for more, like the video, leave a comment, and share it with others who are learning English. Keep learning, keep listening again and again, and don't give up. With practice and patience, you will speak English sooner than you think.